Here at St Matthew's, our peace is disturbed. Gloom is still very ill. We are all feeling unsettled and anxious for him and his family. Our inner peace is being disturbed, but we are all coping, working together and gaining strength from each other. Is this what the readings are saying? Our first reading this morning from Acts has Paul the Apostle having a vision. Paul has lots of visions. This particular vision presents itself as a man from Macedonia, telling Paul to go to Macedonia to preach the gospel. This visit to Macedonia represents the introduction of Christianity to the continent we know as Europe. Paul is following his calling to preach to the Gentiles. This is stepping outside his comfort zone. He was a Jew, and Gentiles were unclean outsiders. Paul was a Pharisee, and they were forbidden to talk to women. Therefore, Paul's encounter with a group of women is significant. He is breaking social boundaries and cultural boundaries. Paul has been taught not to be seen in public with women, let alone Gentile women. Nevertheless, he and his companions, Silas and Timothy, preach to this group of women by the river outside the gates of the Greek city of Philippi. Lydia is described as a worshipper of God, who is receptive to the Jewish faith and belief in one true God. She is a businesswoman and affluent, as she deals in purple cloth, an expensive commodity of the time. Lydia listens to Paul's gospel of Jesus, and God opened her heart. And she and her entire household are baptized in the river. This is radical stuff. Lydia, the first European reported to be baptized, and she is a Gentile. The inclusive message of love, peace, and compassion has been heard and accepted by an outsider. Both are taking a leap of faith, and Paul is welcomed into her home and accepts her hospitality. The distinctions of clean and unclean, acceptable and unacceptable, are passing away. It isn't just Paul who has been radical. Lydia has accepted the gospel of Jesus and faith in God alone. She then invites Paul and his companions to her home. That Paul was probably a scruffy-looking individual doesn't faze her. Expect the unexpected when you open your heart. Paul and Lydia are willing to suspend all the rules, regulations, and customs that governed their world for their faith in Jesus Christ and his love, compassion, and inclusion gospel. 7 years ago, Peter and I moved from Mission Bay to an apartment here in the city. The feature of homeless people astounded me. We had seen homeless people in Santa Monica, London, but in New Zealand, I couldn't believe it, nor could I understand why we had these marginalised people. When I heard people say, it's their own fault, they don't want to work, I decided I needed to get to know these people. I couldn't come to church each Sunday and listen to the gospel and not live that message of love, compassion, and inclusion. For the first time in my life, I decided to do something radical. I have had homeless living in our apartment, spent many hours at the district court, and spent time listening to the homeless. Just as Lydia and Paul stepped outside their social boundaries, so have I.
and this is not a comfortable space. This space has led me onto a path to ordination, something I had never imagined, and while I continue to be challenged by this path, I am open to whatever changes that path may lead me to. This radical move has led me to an inner peace that I had never experienced before. In John's Gospel, Jesus promises his disciples, including us, two things: the gift of the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, and peace. Jesus had also given the disciples a new commandment: to love one another as I have loved you. Jesus promises that the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, will come to assist them when Jesus has left them and will give them peace. This peace is not the oppressive peace being offered by Rome, Pax Romana, nor is it the current peace being offered by the US and UK to the peoples of Iraq and Afghanistan. Peace I leave with you, peace I give to you. What beautiful words. I would love to have peace at 3 a.m, but living in the city, that is a luxury I'm not allowed. I am sure peace means something different for each of us. It could mean a secure job, no debt, and a home off the streets, or not to be ill. However, this definition of peace is more about being secure. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German priest who was executed by the Nazis, said, "Peace is the opposite of security." He meant that seeing peace in terms of meeting our need for security means we would never achieve peace. There would always be something else we need to be secure: a job, a home, health insurance, a superannuation plan, to list a few. This is not the peace that Jesus was giving. This peace would be like this poem by Judy Chicago. And then all that was divided will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will, and then all will be rich and free and varied, and then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many, and then all will share equally in earth's abundance, and all then will care for the sick and the weak and the old, and all will then nourish the young, and then all will cherish life's creatures, and all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everything will be called Eden once again. This peace is shalom, not just the greeting, but an understanding that peace and wholeness is not something you can get from anyone. It encompasses justice and peace among all people. It demands respect for the dignity of every human being. Shalom, God's peace, means becoming a people who seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving our neighbours as ourselves. It comes from a relationship with God through Jesus.